think people give so much fear around the turning 40, but there's really something magical that happens, and I'm not talking about perimenopause. It's the ability to reflect on the last 2 decades of your life and realize all the knowledge that you've gained. And there's something super powerful about that, or at least that's what I've experienced. Would you agree?
100%. I don't know, it's kind of like a really reflective, point in time where it allows you to, like you said, learn and reflect upon what you've done, but also then maybe pivot or replan for the
Hmm.
next like section of your life, because I think we come to this realization like more things are within our power and control right now that we can then manage more effectively because we have the experience, the knowledge, the mistakes, whatever. And now we can form new dreams or new possibilities for our life. And so it is. I think it's a good time.
Well, there's something trending. I'm sure you've seen this on social media, and it's I had coffee with my younger self today. Have you seen this? You know what I'm talking about?
No. Mm-mm.
You haven't seen it. Yeah, and so people say, I had coffee with my younger self and here's, what we discussed. And so in light of that, that's sort of on topic for today's episode, which is things I would tell my younger self, my 20-year-old self, my 30-year-old self, because there is so much knowledge that comes from looking in the rearview mirror. From all your mistakes, from all your successes, you really can glean some life lessons and so what are some things that you would tell yourself? And I think, there I got lots of things wrote down of things I would go back and tell myself if I could have coffee with 20-year-old Jenny, 29-year-old Jenny, hell, 35-year-old Jenny, like there's definitely some things that I would share that I think would have maybe changed or maybe not, the trajectory of things, but certainly some things that I have learned in the last 2 decades.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we were talking about this topic, I was even thinking about like my clinical career whenever I would work with young adults, adolescents, people within their, transitional periods of time. And just to hear the masses amounts of just like confusion, dissonance, disappointment, excitement, a whole host of different emotions kind of come up whenever we find ourselves within this place. And it can really be a big challenge. And so I think it is fun to kind of go back and like speak to ourselves or to just say, hey, these are some things that just might be helpful. Keep them in your back pocket, or give yourself some grace. If you were one of the people that did some of the things that we're going to talk about, give yourself some grace for walking that walk, going through it, and now seeing yourself at where you're at today.
Yeah, giving herself some grace. So what's the first thing that comes to mind? What would you tell yourself, your younger self?
Oh, jeez. I know, right? It's the
You want me to go
pause.
first? I got my
Yeah,
list
go
in front of
ahead.
me. I think
Hmm.
one of the things that comes to mind is get a hold of or get a good understanding of finances. And I don't, I still don't know that I have a good grasp on that. I just happen to have a husband that is super interested and really takes initiative with our family finances. And he's taught me a lot. But I wish that was something that I had learned on my own as a young 20-year-old. Not, my parents, I think, did the best they could. I just wasn't maybe ready to learn it. Um, but you really do set yourself up. That's one thing I've learned from my husband is like you pay yourself first and you don't spend every dollar you make and that's not innate for me. That's something I've had to learn, and so really having a good understanding of how you make your money make money.
Hmm. Hmm. That's a good one. Yeah, you're right, because that really does set you up for the rest of your life. Is sometimes just getting that first credit card and then maxing it out, or not understanding bills and the fluctuation that comes with all of that.
Understanding student debt, like, I mean, I took out a ton of student loans and, um, had no real plan of how I was going to pay those off, and I wish I had a crash course, the 19-year-old on what that means when you're taking out this money and how much money that's gonna end up costing you long term, and, really just having a it took me a God, so many hours of my life to figure all of that out. And so I would definitely go back and say to her, like, make sure you have a full understanding of what this entails.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Um, for me, I think one of the first things that come to mind is that I think it's important to have some type of value driven plan for life in general. And that doesn't mean that I'm being like very concrete and saying, I want to have this job, I want to make this much money, I want to do like all of these very specific types of like goal achievement types of things. It means more. It's like I want my values. I value my health. I value my spirituality. I value my relationship with my family or the one that I want to have with my kids. I value time. And I think that by taking some moments back at those different points and really making sure that my values are concrete, as concrete as they can and specific, or at least that I know what ones are most important to me. And then deciding what my educational path or what my relationships or where I want to live. Like all of these things then have to fit within my values because the box doesn't work. It doesn't work in reverse. And so
Mm-mm.
if I choose the career, the relationship, the place I'm living, and I still feel unhappy, even though I have success within those areas, it's not because of my dissatisfaction with what I'm doing. It's that I'm not living a life in accordance with my values in a sense, And so like with my career, um, it took a lot of time. It took a lot of time
Mhm.
away from a lot of things. Myself, my kid, relationships, my dog, whatever, like these silly things that we all just are like, well, we're doing it for them. I don't think that that was worth it for me. I
Mm.
think that having
Wow.
more time to have actually been present, you know what I mean, within some of those things would have been just better in some ways. I think I would have gotten a lot more out of it. And whenever I look back at my career, again, very happy, still maintain the license, loved all the people that I worked with, but I was stuck in a damn box for eight
Mm,
hours a day.
mhm.
And that wasn't good for me. That was
Right.
not, and the
Yeah.
last part of my career, like the last, like, I don't know, 8 years of it, I didn't even have a window. And
Yeah.
even though I would come home and like take
Join the
care of Penny,
club.
those things, yeah, those things didn't work for me. And I think knowing or at least having a sense, if you don't have like, this is what works for me, this is what doesn't, but at least having a sense of that and then choosing a path or a career that is more aligned with those values and those kind of needs would have been much more fulfilling all the way around. And so that's what
Yeah.
I value time at the top of my priority list now. Like it's the most important thing I have because it's the thing that I mean, it's draining all the time. I can't save time. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can save
Uh,
money, you can save all kinds of things, not that.
but you can't get that time back, and
Mm-mm.
I completely agree with you, and to build on what you just said, one of the things I wrote down was don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to change your mind. Don't be afraid to, realize that you don't know everything and that that's okay. You're not supposed to know everything, and that, similarly, I stayed in a career that I loved, in those beginning years, God, I loved that job so much, and I was thriving, but, there was a turning point, and it was right around the time I had kids. And, I couldn't give, 90% of myself to that career anymore because I had my own family then to take care of, and I really kinda did a little, like, self-destruction, for a few years, and, I've said it a million times, I shoulda walked away a long time ago, because what I have learned since is that there are a million things I can do with my skill set, and I was so afraid that I had gone to college and graduate school, and I had all this at that point, I had a decade of expertise, like, this was my path, I was going to be a retired school psychologist someday, and the bottom line is, like, that doesn't have to be your path just because you chose that as your education, right? There's a skill set that you're going to develop, and you really can take those skills and apply it to many different types of professions. And so similarly, you know And I say this to several friends now who want to take a leap. I'm like, just do it. The time will never be right. If you wait for the right time, you will wait for the rest of your life. So just jump off the boat and you will swim eventually. At first, you might feel like you're drowning, but eventually you'll find your footing or you will find your, you'll remember how to swim and you will figure it out. And I think that we're so afraid to fail that we stay in unhappy or unhealthy situations for fear of failure and fear that what are people going to think. And this is another thing I would tell myself: nobody really cares. Nobody's paying that much attention to you. And if they are, that's on them because nobody really
Mm,
cares. Nobody
yeah.
cares I was a school psychologist for 17 years. Nobody cares. I could have done it for 10 years. I could have done it for 5 years. Nobody cares. And
No.
so, yeah, I think don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to say, I'm not happy. I'm going to find something different to do.
Yeah. And that goes for anything. Like it's just on the same thread I have, don't stay in something that isn't working. It does
Hmm.
not mean if that is the job, the relationship, the degree choice. If it's not working, then it's not working. Maybe you've tried everything, maybe you've done everything, but continuing to stay stagnant in a place that isn't working will lead to other negative consequences for you. I mean, for
Yes.
your mental health, for your physical health,
Hmm. Amen.
um, your emotions, everything will start to deteriorate if you are staying in something that isn't good for you.
Right.
And that gut feeling is strong. It's echoing you for a reason. And at some point, you just got to be like you said, take the jump, do it. There's so much whenever we talked about this before that people have a lot of fear with that. Your body physiologically doesn't know the difference between fear and anxiety. It is your thoughts in those moments that is dictating everything. Physiologically, your body's responding the same damn way. It is what you are thinking about that situation that is dictating your emotional labeling at that point in time. And so I would definitely do that. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just
I
not
think
worth it.
too, I'm just thinking about like my personal experience with my career. I became so attached to the families and the community I was working in, and I felt like almost like this sense of self, like they need me. Who's going to be able to do this role if I'm not
Mm,
here? And a very good friend and colleague of mine said, Jenny, somebody else will come along that will care about these kids. Somebody else will come and fill this office and do this job day in and day out. Like, love ya, but somebody else will assume the role.
right. Right. Yeah. I mean, that would probably be a lesson to myself in my 40s or maybe even like mid 30s would be that, again, like you're saying, you got attached to a job in a community. I got attached to a title. I liked being Dr. Stevens. That was kind of fun.
Right?
You can walk
Yeah.
around and flash that just about anywhere. My God. You got,
It's like immediate
I didn't have
respect,
any
right?
limits.
Look at her.
Right. Yeah, I didn't
She's a
have any,
doctor.
right. I didn't have any limits. I could waltz into anywhere. And I mean, it's a bad thing in a way, but it was very, ego attached. And I mean, now it's almost whenever I hear that, I get like the heebie jeebies. Like somebody will walk up and be like, hey, and I'll be like, oh God,
Call me
not that
Sarah.
again, I'm ashamed or regret any of that, but it
Sure.
was just, you just become so attached to one thing and then that not necessarily defines you, but it becomes so much a part of your ego that it's best to kind of like step away from it again. Very happy with all the education. Do I still use that? What is that
Sure.
prefix? Is that what it is English wise? Sometimes, yes. But I don't know. It's a good thing that not to get so attached to a title of something too, or the idea of a title. I think that was probably part of it in my 20s and 30s. Like I just wanted to have that title. I wanted to have that position. I wanted to have that control. I wanted to have that power because I knew that it would help me reach other things within my life. But that in and of itself can also become its own poison as well. And so, I'm not saying don't pursue the degree or the career, but be mindful of what you're attaching yourself to as part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't write that down, but I think be mindful of the people you're attaching yourself to. If I could go back and tell 30 something Jenny, you know, well, 29-year-old Jenny, right as she's about to walk down the aisle, A, it's the best decision you've ever made in your entire life. And B, buckle up, bitch, because 30s are about to rock your world, you know? And it is. I mean, I think about all I went through in my 30s, losing my dad, having a miscarriage, losing deep friendships, experiencing mental health issues. And I thought that, 20s were stressful being in college and grad school and figuring out who you're going to marry and all those things. I thought that was hard, but boy, was I not prepared for what was about to come in that next decade. And so I think just realizing
Mhm.
like, you know, get your mind right because things are about to get hard.
Mhm. Yeah. No doubt. Buckle up. I like that. Yeah, 30s are a really transformational time. I mean, I don't know that we focus so much on like midlife and these midlife crisis, whatever all this other stuff is, but 30s really are a burst of things happening, whether that be births, deaths, career changes, um, divorces, like everything, like a lot of things happen within that very delicate period of time. So, yeah, in your 20s, like let's take some time to self care and really just kind of ground ourselves. So that way, whenever this shit really starts to hit the fan, that you
Yeah.
have some good friends, that you have some um, solid points within your life that you can turn to. So that way it doesn't feel like it's all in everything, you know? That's a good point. It is. That's the 30s were a lot.
30s, I really learned how to create boundaries, and it took me a long time. I would say I didn't really nail it until the end of my 30s. And it's still a work in progress. You got every day, those are things you have to work at, but learning how to create boundaries to protect yourself. And, I think we don't realize how much other people and their behavior affect us sometimes. And so just being, um, sure enough of ourselves or confident enough in ourselves and our needs that you can create a boundary and really hold to it. And I think that just takes time, but that was something that I really had to develop in the last decade. Um, and it's still, it's hard, but choosing yourself and your mental health is one of the most important things that we can do. It's not selfish. It's important in order for you to thrive and be the person that you want to show up as every day. That people pleasing role we've talked about a lot. Like if that's you, that's really hard for you to create a boundary because you want everybody to be happy and you want to please everybody and make sure everything's homeostasis. And that's really not your job. Your job is to make sure that your head's right and that your needs are met so that you can show up and be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and attract the kind of people then that or you need and want to have in your life. You're not going to get those best people likely if you're in your worst spot. It's going to be really, really hard if you're not taking care of yourself because you're not putting you as a priority at that point. So, yeah,
Yeah. And you do
that people
attract what you put
pleasing.
out. And that's so true.
Mhm.
You know, I look at my life now versus in my 30s and the people, like your core group of people, like they're so much more aligned with who I am now versus who I was back then. Like my core group was very much aligned to who I was then, and she's still a lot of the same, but she's come a long way. I'll say that. There's been a lot of evolution there.
Yeah, which is good. And again, like we talked about in the previous episodes, friendships and things like that fade, but maybe they're supposed to because we're kind of moving in a direction, with our life. And whenever people are, again, maybe not or stagnant or still or just kind of stuck, I don't know that it's helpful for us to continue to try to tug them out because then it keeps us pulled back on something and not moving forward um, and moving on with our life, even. Mm, yeah.
Yeah,
People
you've heard
pleasing
me say
stuff.
this a million times. If you listen to this podcast, one of the biggest things I would go back and tell my younger self is develop a meditation practice. Learn to sit in
Mm-hmm.
silence with yourself and your thoughts, and that will help you hone in on what your heart's greatest desires are. And that
Mm-hmm.
will help you kind of build, like you were talking about, that trajectory for your life. Like, what's the most important things to you, and help you align your behavior and your life to those goals and help you to achieve those. And if there's one thing that I could do differently, there's not much I would do differently, but I would have started meditating like way back when,
Mm-hmm.
as early as possible. just to develop a really strong sense of self and to understand who
Mhm.
I am and who I want to be and how to, how am I going to achieve this?
Yeah. Yeah, it would've been nice to have known all those, like, cool self-care things at that kinda point, huh? Or maybe just even did them. Um, Gosh, for sure. Ugh, there's a few other things I was thinking about. I think that it's okay to go back and, again, if you're having coffee with yourself or, whatever, at any point in time, to say that you did a good job. That in those there may have been some hard things that you did, or, ways that you acted or respond to situations that at that moment you were using all the skills, knowledge, um, tools, whatever that you had at that moment. And I think it's okay to
Mm,
go back and say, you know what, you did a good job. And you should be proud of what you did at that point because it helped you to kind of get to where you eventually wanted to be. It may have
mhm.
been hard. It may have had a lot of conflict associated with it. A lot of people may not like you or like you even today or anything else, but because you did that, it was a good thing. And I think that that's important to go back and say, you know what, you did good. Not just that we're,
You did good, kid.
making mistakes and learning. Yeah, you did good, kid. This was what you were dealt with at that point in time. And at that moment, it would have been easy to have, um, I don't know that given in. You could have become complacent. You could have given in. You could have acquiesced to groupthink
What's
or
that word
whatever
mean?
else was happening. Just kind of like giving in. It just sounds prettier.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's,
I'm
I
gonna
don't
look
know.
that up in the dictionary.
Well, I can't spell it, so good luck. Um, but it would have been, I think that that would have been, I think that's a nice thing for you to do for yourself. Cause I do, I look back on my career at different points and you know, um, building and creating things often has a lot of conflict and a lot of discord that can come with it, a lot of strong opinions. But I think that it was hard at those points, but it was worth it. And again, telling yourself that you did a good job during those hard points because now, if you look back at all of that, then it's growing, flourishing, things are great. And if you hadn't been willing to do that, I don't know that that outcome would have been where it's at now. So, sometimes you just gotta say, "You know what? You did okay. You did all right."
Mhm. You did all right.
Not just not just, you kinda screwed up on this one or, you could have handled this better or differently. You know what? You did everything that you could have and you did a good job. So, cheers, Have some time with that for a moment.
Or just acknowledge what
That's
was
what
the
I'd say.
lesson there, right? You might have
Mhm.
screwed up, but, like, what'd you learn from it? And then how'd you move forward and acknowledging, like, how hard even that is to
Mhm.
do, to say, like, "Oh, yeah, that
Mhm.
was my bad, and that won't happen again because I've certainly learned my lesson." I
Mhm.
think the thing I would go back and tell young Jenny the most, and this is still something I tell myself, is you are so much more than your weight.
Mm.
And for anybody that has ever struggled with body image, like that is something that I was so focused on in my 20s and in my 30s. And I have somehow come to this I am who I am. I'm 5'2". I live a very active lifestyle. I had pizza for dinner last night. I love to have a cocktail on the weekends. Like, it's okay because whether you're 5 or 10 pounds heavier than you were a year ago, certainly I don't want to let weight continue to creep up because I am concerned about, I'm always going to be concerned about health and wellness. Um, you don't have to be a size 0 to think that you're worthy
Mhm.
of happiness. And and so I wish that I had not been so hard on myself and just constantly like trying to chase this idea that I thought was like the perfect figure. Um, the perfect figure is like happy and healthy. And so that's taken me a long time to get here. Certainly I'm like everybody else. I want to look good. I want to feel good in my swimsuit. And I mean, even as recent as last year, I was really struggling. But something it has flicked a switch in me in the last 12 months where I am just really proud of, like, the choices I make every day to choose my health and to focus on being healthy. And that doesn't just mean like a certain size or a certain weight, but like that I am truly taking care of my body, my soul, my mind, all the things. All of that is more important to me than how much I weigh. Can't remember the last time I
Mm,
stepped on a scale.
mhm.
Well, I can when I go to the doctor, but I purposefully look the other direction. Don't really care what the number says anymore.
Yeah. Those things that we used to call them the fortune teller. Like if you're a person that gets up and weighs yourself every morning, whatever that number is dictates if you're going to have a good day or a bad day. And
1000%.
then,
Yeah. Lived it for
yeah,
2 decades.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So not
that's a,
important. And I was not one of those people that had babies and breastfed and weight fell off. Like my weight never fell off until I quit breastfeeding. Because I
mm-hmm,
was so freaking hungry when I was breastfeeding. And so, like, these people that are like, oh, I'm back in my skinny jeans and I had a baby last week. I was never her and I was never going to be her. And I was really hard on myself after both babies. And, just like, why? Why is this so easy for everybody else? Like, I am doing fucking everything that they tell you to do. And everybody else blinks and they're back in their jeans. That just wasn't me. And I wish I would have had a lot more grace for
mm,
myself, particularly
mm-hmm.
postpartum. That was some of the hardest times.
Yeah, that is a great piece of advice. Don't get hung up on those types of things. Um, I say this, I think that this is important. I try to live my life by this. I think I've even said it on our podcast before. It's a quote from a musical, Rent. Forget regret or life is yours to miss. And that was one thing I would always tell my patients, like, I can help you out with maybe almost anything that you bring in here, but I can't help you out with regret. Like, there's a line there that I'm not able to really be very assistive at. And so, with that, what I'm saying is if you are feeling, again, within your gut, a constant echo, compelled to do something, do it. And I know we said that a minute ago, but for me, it really comes down to like, take the trip and have the life experience because within my career, within my life, I saw a lot of young people dying from cancers, from accidents. Um, their partners or spouses did, and that they would always say that they wish they would have done. And it could have, I mean, again, it could have been something like really small, or even whenever I'm at other activities or events and I hear um, people talking like, I really want to do this. I think that that would be really good for me. My first thing is do it. Like we were at a conference with Jeff's work the last week, and then somebody was saying, I really want to go to like Ireland or something. It would really and expressed a lot of emotion and thoughts and feelings about it. I was like, well, go. Like, well, I don't know how. You get a passport, you get on a plane and you go. I mean, yeah, you
Yeah.
might have to set a budget or all this other stuff, but don't make something more complicated than what it needs to be. If you have something that's important to you, it doesn't take a whole lot of complex steps. It takes simplification. So simplify it and then work the plan. Don't just leave this thing lingering out there because if it's speaking to you is something that you're going to benefit from doing. And it
Hmm.
might not just,
It's
whenever you get
true.
back, yeah, yeah, I did it. That thing that you did at that point of time is going to benefit you for years to come.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it just is what it is. Whenever you have those moments, you've got to give into them because it's setting a foundation or giving you a gift that you thought was actually going and happening in that moment, but it's one that you're going to open up and really receive its benefits later. So just
Take the
don't
trip.
delay those things. Take the trip. Take the trip. And that is it. Yeah.
One final thought for me, and this wasn't on my list, but it popped in my head while you were talking about, um, just shared experiences. I wish I would have asked, particularly my dad since he's gone. But I wish I would have asked more questions about like their life at that time in their 20s and 30s. Like even though I was around as a kid, you kind of assume you knew things, but like, my mom she texted me on Sunday and she's like, "Oh, you watching, early morning CBS?" I'm like, "No, mom, I don't watch TV." And she's like, "Oh, well, they're talking about this like battle of Saigon or something. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. She goes, "That's what your dad was involved in with Vietnam. He was a Marine and he was at the end of Vietnam." And she was like, "Yeah, he had PTSD from that." She's like telling me, and I'm like, "I never knew that. Like, I never once
Mm,
asked him about his experiences in the Marines. I knew it was something he was very proud of, and like, but I never asked him just like, "Well, tell me some stories. Let me write these down to tell
mhm,
your grandkids someday." Like I wish I had, my mom's family does a great job. We when we all get together, we tend to tell a lot of stories. We retell stories, so they're sort of ingrained in me. But I didn't necessarily have that experience with my dad's family. And um, so yeah, I wish I would have, not just like asked the questions, but like maybe wrote down the answers because
mm,
you do forget
mhm.
things as you get older. And I wish I knew what his experience was like. And
No, I think that's great. Yeah, even of your grandparents or of their experiences with things because
absolutely, if you still have your grandparents in your 20s and 30s, God bless you.
mhm, mhm.
What a
Yeah, but
gift.
yeah, but sit down and ask some questions. Fill those blanks in.
Mhm.
It makes it you may not again, you may not understand the purpose of doing it now, but the gift is given later. So,
Yeah,
take it
you'll
or
want
even
to
like a
know later.
respected person. Yeah.
Hmm.
Or even like a
Yeah,
respected
somebody,
like family friend or person, yeah, in your life. Like
right.
take the time. Take the time and again, it may seem like a hassle, whatever we call them visits up here. We're going for a visit, which means you don't know how
Sit
long
and
you're going to be
visit.
staying in a place. It's going to
Yeah.
probably be awful in that present moment,
Yeah.
but maybe 15 years from now, there's a
There you
nugget
go.
that was given in that visit that is going to mean
Yeah.
a whole lot and it's all going to make sense. So take the time
Yeah.
to do the visit.
Make the visit. People don't visit anymore. Just go sit on the
Do the visit.
porch, have a visit, have some tea,
Right.
listen to the
Take
birds.
the
God, we're
visit.
fucking
Right.
old. Listen to our advice.
Mhm.
But true. Have the visit.
Mhm. Have the visit.
Well, I've enjoyed
I
coffee
think
with our
that's
younger self today.
I know,
I
how
hope
about
she
that?
uh hope she heeds the advice.
Yeah. Hope she's proud, right?
Right? Hope she's proud. I think
Mhm.
she is. I mean,
Mhm.
I know she is. Yeah, so if you got a younger sibling, you're a loyal listener, send this to your younger sibling. Hopefully they'll get a little nugget of
Mhm.
information, a little nudge maybe to think about some of these things. Because you're just not aware. We're so wrapped up in ourselves at those ages. It's hard to, and that's the gift of of still being alive is you can reflect and learn from it. So
Steph. And thanks to
draw
Seth
from
too, because
experience.
sweet Seth, yeah, he helped to come up with this topic whenever he's coming up with such great ideas. So so thanks to Seth, because this was one of his few ones. And then we were sitting there thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I wish that's a good one.
That is a good one,
And then you go
and
down
it's
the rabbit
trending,
hole.
as Rachel would say.
Mhm. I know, she's big on that. It's trending. It's trending. It's so
All right,
funny.
y'all, that's all
God
we got
bless
for
him.
this week. Until next week, Lilas.
We're out.